Slazokamati Omateo. I call this meeting on March 17, 2025 at 7 p.m. I'll start with our land acknowledgement. The City of Albany recognized that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated villages of Lisjan. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationship with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hanson Romero.
Here.
Councilmember Jordan.
Here.
Councilmember McKee is joining us online.
Here.
Councilmember Vice Mayor McQuay.
Here.
And Mayor Lopez.
Here. All right, we had no closed session and we have no ceremonial matters. Moving on to item number 5, City Manager's report. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Today is a notable day because it is 1 day past our 5-year mark with declaring a local emergency for COVID-19. 5 years ago. Certainly have grown together since then in many ways and learned new things like participating remotely on Zoom. Thank you, Councilmember Mickey. And really just watched our city evolve quickly with regard to how to facilitate services for our community. As the council knows, we continue to use those services and programs through the ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, where the city received a little over $4 million total, and a combination of funds provided both for community services and business resiliency and assistance. So pleased to see those programs have been well utilized, and also pleased that we're 5 years away from what was quite a challenging and unexpected time for us all. So again, thank you for your leadership through the last 4 and 5 years. Some good news. As council may recall, you approved a project grant to move forward for Pierce Street Cleveland Bikeway Connection Project. Last week, the city's Pierce Cleveland Bikeway Connection Project was recommended for a grant through the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, MTC, climate program. The award is in the amount of $300,000 and will support planning and conceptual design work to continue project development. The council adopted a resolution authorizing this submission last December, so really want to appreciate all of our staff's hard work in getting us to this point and continuing to focus on getting this project moving forward. Our soft story retrofit program is underway. Again, this was an ordinance approved by the council to help facilitate retrofit of facilities with soft story. The building on Keynes was a fourplex that is now much more secure in the face of an earthquake. We also have 7 buildings that have received building permits for their retrofits. The deadline for Tier 1 buildings to receive a building permit is October 15th. Any building owners with questions about the ordinance can go to albanyca.org/softstory or email us at softstory@albanyca.org, and our staff are working directly with property owners to help facilitate and answer any questions regarding retrofit process. A reminder that our summer catalog has been distributed both online and at city facilities. This is your one-step shopping for all camps and classes throughout the summer season, so be sure to take advantage of those. I heard when we first opened the signups, we had over 200 within an hour, so still a very popular array of programs and services. Our community center is in need of some volunteers to help clean up. This is our Friends of Albany Park cleanup program, and the next facility that will benefit from that volunteer work will be at our community center. Come by Saturday, March 22nd from 9 to noon to help participate in that event. And as I mentioned a couple times, but want to reiterate because this is coming around the corner now, starting March 31st, end of this month, Waste Management will be replacing both the recycling and trash carts for all residential locations. You should have received a postcard in the mail potentially this past weekend or perhaps forthcoming, depending on how the mail routes are going. So smaller size postcards, so please watch for that, as it does have helpful information and who to contact for questions. And directly, those would go to Waste Management at albany@wm.com is the most direct email, or through their customer service phone number locally is 510-613-2116. I share this information because we do have assurance that at the local level of the Waste Management franchise overall, that we will have customer service representation to help answer questions and concerns as the cart rollout progresses. I'd also like to appreciate Golden Gate Fields for facilitating the storage of these carts in the interim. It's quite a process to transition all of those carts, so they've been a helpful neighbor with regard to sharing their site with us. And finally, information on our seismic retrofit grant, actually through the Earthquake Brace and Bolt program. They are offering up to $3,000 to help retrofit homes. That grant program is open now through March 26th. And the website is CaliforniaResidentialMitigationProgram.com. We're also showing this through our city e-news, so you can certainly find the link more easily than me reading it. But that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Do we have any questions from council? Any public comments? All right, thank you. Oh.
For members of the public on Zoom, if you have question on the city manager report, please keep your hand raised. Otherwise, please lower your hand.
Hi, I came in just a couple of minutes late. I don't know if the city manager mentioned the city's satisfaction survey, but 2 weeks ago, or when the last city council meeting, I asked this question. I didn't get an answer. So I see that it was in the e-news. I want to know if there are paper copies of the city satisfaction survey, or is it just an online thing? Thank you.
Yes, this is Lucinda Young. First, I just wanted to give a big shout out for the $300,000 grant, and thanks so much for the staff for pursuing that. And second, I was just wondering if there is any update on the grant for the gas pruning project. There was a lot of discussion about that at last city council meeting, and things were looking better, but still there were a lot of questions, and I'm wondering if our staff has been able to get into the portal and access the funds, or if we have any other updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. City Manager, any responses?
Thank you, Mayor. Sure, and appreciate the questions. Yes, paper copies of the satisfaction survey are available upon request. Happy to facilitate that and also provide them via mail if someone needs that service. The gas line decommissioning project, thank you so much for asking about that. Yes, we have had more luck in coordinating with the Department of Energy staff and getting some additional guidance from them with regard to facilitation of the grant and assurances therein. So we're continuing to work through that project with confidence at this point in time, and I underscore this point in time, given that there is some, as we all collectively understand, some uncertainties at that level. But our current understanding is that the funding is available. Our staff has been able to get into the portal, and we have been able to invoice for costs to date and going forward. So as of now, that project is completely on track and funded through the original grant source, meaning that we will not intend on utilizing the reserve funds that the council had appropriated. However, anything changes with that, we'll certainly report back.
Thank you, City Manager. All right, now moving on to item number 6, good of the city public comments. Just a reminder, public comments are for items not on the agenda. City manager or city clerk?
Good evening. I'm Dr. Stephen Alpert. Over the past year, I've requested the council to justify, while it follows only the minimum state mandate of notifying those within 300 feet of proposed new construction, regardless of project size, when in fact for years, other California municipalities have used wider and varying notification to distinguish between small and large-scale projects. For reasons unknown, to date, the council has refused to provide the rationale why Albany electively follows only the minimum state mandate. Notifying only those to 300 feet clearly limits public discourse, allowing the Planning and Zoning Commission to propose and the council to then push through new projects with minimal awareness and input from the public. Such was the case for the oversized 5-story modern box proposed for 1600 Solano Avenue. Only 73 properties were alerted about 1600 Solano, which clearly is not functionally appropriate nor harmonious with its surroundings, in total violation of Albany's planning and zoning mission statement. At the last council meeting, City Manager Almanger commented that Community Development Director Bond has offered to meet with me to review 300 feet notification, most recently on January 22nd. She inferred that I alone have declined to meet with him. That is simply not factual. Director Bond's invitation was forwarded to several Albany residents concerned with 300 feet notification. The group consensus that meeting with him would be of no value, and the following email was forwarded to Director Bond and to all council members, all city members. Director Bond, here verbatim is the email response from one individual which sums up the lack of interest in meeting with you. Hi, Steve. I'm not sure of the value of talking to Jeff Bond about a terrible project that's already been approved by Albany Planning and Zoning. What we are interested in is a fundamental change in community notification about large projects that would significantly alter the nature of our town. A larger segment of the community needs to be notified and allowed to have input. 300 feet public notification proposed new construction, regardless of project size, is not a matter for private meetings. More than a dozen individuals have requested that the council consider expanding notification for large projects beyond 300 feet, as enacted by many other California municipalities. If the council generally believes that alerting only those within 300 feet is appropriate for large multi-story projects, which will impact all of Albany, then defend that practice. Submit 300 feet notification as a meeting agenda item to allow for extended, in-depth public discussion. Thank you for the opportunity to address the council.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, I'd like to request that the City of Albany establish a rent registry so that tenants, renters in Albany, who make up more than 50% of the population in Albany, have a way of being in touch with each other. The landlords have a way of being in touch with each other, and they take advantage of that, and I know they benefit from that, and so I would like to see the same opportunity for the tenants. But right now, when the landlords register their property, or whatever it's license, do the license, whatever it is that they do, they don't have to put the address of their rental. They put their own personal address. So there's no way for tenants to get together and have conversations or look at ways that they could benefit by working together. So I'd like to see Albany do that. I don't know if that's something that the City Council could just decide, or if I don't know what the logistics are, but if at least it could be on the agenda, I think it would be a great benefit. Right now, it's a very imbalanced situation because the landlords show up en masse, as you're probably aware of, but the tenants have no way of being in touch with each other. Thank you. Oh, I just wanted to point out that the neighboring cities, Richmond has a rent registry, Oakland has a rent registry, Alameda has a rent registry, Berkeley has a rent registry. So it's not like something that's not being done in the area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. That's it. All right, that concludes our public comment section. Moving on to item number 7, consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. By approval of the consent calendar, staff recommendations will be adopted unless otherwise modified by the City Council. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or member of the audience requests removal of the item from the consent calendar. I will move to pull item 7.7. Are there any others on council that would like to pull any items on the consent calendar?
7.6.
7.6. Okay. Are there any members of the public that wish to pull an item from the consent calendar? Seeing none. All right. Item 7.6.
Yeah, it's just simply to thank staff for being dynamically aware of the pavement conditions and proactively being this contract to correct degradations for weather conditions.
Microphone, sir. Microphone.
I apologize. I thought I turned it on. I guess I turned it off. I will repeat. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank staff for being dynamically aware of pavement conditions and how they've changed due to the weather, and putting together this contract to restore conditions along one of the main streets in Albany.
Thank you very much. In terms of item 7.7, I just want to take this time to acknowledge and show appreciation to our fire department and other city staff that have brought us here where we're at, as well as current sitting council members and past council members who have afforded us to be in this position to assist our fire department to be better equipped. Also just want to extend appreciation to our fire chief for patience and collaboration in the process. I know this has been a quite time coming, and I think we're all excited, and I'm sure you may have words to share as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for providing the opportunity to kind of give some accolades to my staff. But it first starts at the top, from the city manager's office to 2 previous mayors, one that's still on the council now, and Councilmember Jordan, met with UC and came together for an agreement for a piece of equipment that was going to be necessary to properly serve the building that is now the graduate housing in the village. So it was a great collaboration. We'll be unique. We'll be one of 5 fire departments in the state with this style of aerial device. It's going to be perfect for our situation here. And I would just like to publicly thank Captain Barry. He led our apparatus committee, and just a few words on the process that we went through. Just a few quick words, just so you understand how much work went into this.
Thank you, Chief. As he stated, my name is Captain James Berry with the Fire Department. It's been a great collaborative process building this fire engine that's in front of you today, this fire ladder truck. Just a few words about elaborating a little bit on the sustainability and the environmental aspects of this ladder truck. It's going to be built with something that we have on our current fire engine, idle reduction technology. So it's actually going to be, it's not quite a hybrid, but it will actually shut down on the scenes of calls, so it'll be running time a lot less. It's built to run off the Nesty renewable diesel, which is great, again, decreasing pollutants, and it's also getting the 2027 EPA, California EPA motors in it, so it's getting the most latest and current technology for clean air standards. As far as maneuverability goes, as you know, with a taller ladder truck, we get to be a longer piece of apparatus, which is tough for our city because we have such tight streets. We visited 5 different fire departments and looked at how they dealt with that process, from Big Bear down south to Healdsburg to Berkeley to Mountain House out in the valley. All found ways to get Pierce to build this specific fire truck that, again, incorporates something they call their tight turning technology. So it's actually, if you've seen our fire engine out on the streets now, the rear axles actually steer. So it's going to help us navigate throughout the city. And again, help us be a better player in the complete streets and the active transportation plan, so we can move through the streets more comfortably and not be as big of a burden like we can't do those things because our ladder truck needs to get through. And the last thing is, as Chief Bodo pointed out, it's for crew safety. This is going to be one of the first actually aerial bucket trucks in our area. Most of our neighboring agencies all use what we refer to as a straight stick ladder truck, which means the ladder just goes up with the firefighter sitting at the top. This will actually have a bucket on the top, so our crew safety, where we can buckle in, proceed to do our work. It's going to be it's going to be a game changer. And this really, for your consideration tonight, this will be the pride of the fleet and will really be a recognizable piece of equipment here in our city. So again, if you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer your questions, and if not, I appreciate you considering it tonight.
Thank you very much. And I see Councilmember Mickey has his hand up.
Thank you, Fire Chief Boyta and Captain Barry in particular. I think the points that you brought up today are really incredible and really valuable, and I truly appreciate all the research you put into thinking about what this fire truck could be and then the actual procuring of this truck. And this even goes back to 2022 when you all bought the latest fire truck that we have now that also has the tight turning radius ability. And I think you hit exactly on the points that I wanted to bring up, just how this truck is more sustainable for us as a community, how this truck will allow us to continue to make street improvements for all users. What I have found is in many communities, fire trucks are a very large limiting factor into what you can do in the street because of the large turning radii that they have. And so the efforts that you all as a group have been doing, and particularly the last 2 fire trucks we've purchased, are incredible, and I truly appreciate those efforts that you've put in. And I think I missed in the handout that it will be a bucket truck. So I'm looking at the city manager right now saying, if I'm ever mayor again, perhaps I can ride on the ladder of the fire truck.
Don't give me ideas.
But again, thank you so much for all the effort you put into this, and I think this will be an incredible addition to our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Mickey. Any other comments on this item from council members?
Yeah, I just want to express appreciation as well. It was really exciting to just look at the picture, and I don't know how many folds the ladder has. It's just amazingly compact. Does it fold up like an accordion, or how does it get packed into that small space?
Yeah, it's base section, 4 fly sections. Yeah, 4 fly sections. So it's our current one is 3.
Okay.
So this is 4, so it can be even more compact.
It's amazing.
So it'll fit in our station as well.
Wow.
Because that was
really
also
amazing.
kind of an important piece that had to do first.
And if you don't mind, I'll expand a little bit. So actually, the ladder it hyper retracts over what's called the turntable. So the turntable is where it pivots. It actually hyper retracts beyond that, so it can actually, whereas most of them pivot from one point and they need that whole reach of the ladder. Pierce has designed this so it hyper retracts so it can shorten. Wow. We're talking long ladder trucks are 65 feet. We've got this one down to about 42 feet.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's their technology, but it's through cooperation and research that we found this short of a ladder truck to work well in our city. And it's all proprietary to them. So
That's pretty amazing. I started reading the specs as well, and I gave up after about 10 pages of whatever, 120 pages. Like, this is so detailed. It's incredible. So thank you for all the work.
Thank you again. Not seeing any other comments on the item, I will entertain a motion for consent calendar.
Move.
Second?
City Clerk?
Mayor Lopez,
Yep.
Councilmember Hanson Romero,
Yes.
Councilmember Jordan,
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McQuaid.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, unfinished business, City Council Strategic Plan 2025 to 2027. City staff?
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully this document looks familiar to you with a bit of a refresh for the new term of your strategic plan, but very similar format. And hopefully we have incorporated your feedback and comments and thoughts and ideas from your work session on February 25th into this final draft of the upcoming City Council strategic plan. You'll see that the term of the plan remains consistent with the previous plan, basically 2-ish years, which has worked well in terms of having the next council seated, get adjusted into their elected official roles, and then dive into some strategic planning together. Walking through the goals, not much has changed there because they all remain high priorities for the council, as we've heard. There is a bit of a language change to goal number 1, as addressed at your work session, regarding reduce greenhouse gas pollution and adapt to climate change. Also on goal number 5, there is an insert for council consideration, increase revenue and economic development to sustain city services. Hearing the conversation at the strategic planning session in about hour 3, we worked through this, and collectively I heard an interest in ensuring economic development, but not quite yet an objective, so potentially this helps meet some middle ground there. You will see the goals listed throughout the plan, as well as the accompanying objectives. At first blush, it feels like a reasonable amount from the staff perspective. I will share that we've walked through this with our executive team, the department heads from each department, to get their sense of, can we accomplish all of this in the next 2 years? And I think the responsible answer to that is we'll give it our best try, and we know we'll get significant accomplishments. Will we accomplish it all? We look forward to the opportunity until something else comes our way unexpectedly, as we all know, but certainly dedicated to seeing it through, and appreciation for the clarity in the objectives, and also uniquely kind of a dichotomy there, also the flexibility in the objectives for potentially reinterpretation or meeting them in more than one way, as we have with several of the existing objectives in your previous strategic plan. So with that, I would welcome any additional edits or clarifications or corrections that may be needed in this final draft.
Thank you, City Manager. Do we have any questions from council?
Oh, yeah, I do have a question, and then I have a comment on the mission statement, which we can come back to, I guess.
Okay.
So on goal 4, objective 4, I'd just like to have a little bit of conversation perhaps around that. I'm just wondering, and let me just clarify for everybody, it's the low-income tax and renter exemptions, just trying to figure out how many there might be, and certainly guesses are fine, and how many people take advantage of it. I guess my concern is there's a lot of work to be done here, and I'm just wondering if my friend says, if the juice is worth the squeeze, if it's more than we can really manage. So if there's any thoughts about that.
I mean, I have thoughts. You said objective 5, right?
I don't know. I thought I said 4.
I thought you said 4, but
I think I said it wrong.
okay, because I think from the context I thought it was 5. So
Okay, it's
5.
Goal 4, right? Objective 5.
okay,
Sorry.
yeah, or I might have misheard as well. So the streets and storm drains is the main, maybe even the only, I'm not sure, is the only one. I'm seeing confirmation from the city manager, thank you, is the only one that doesn't have this provision, and it is one of the more costly property taxes. So it's, at least for a single detached residence, it's somewhere well over $100 a year. And so that makes the effort of people applying for this tax relief that much more valuable. I don't know if having retrofit this feature into more and more of the taxes, thus increasing the amount of rebate or exemption that's available, has played a role in the number of, or the share of eligible households that have chosen to apply, but the share of eligible households has been going up dramatically, which is quite good news from my perspective. It's still only at about 25 to 30%, but as of 10 years ago, it was more like 4%. So I don't know if that helps answer your question, but it is one of the larger property taxes that we have that doesn't have this provision. There are other taxes that don't have the rent to rebate either, and so as a matter of equity, I hold that should be added as well. We shouldn't just have an exemption. We should have a rebate if we can have an exemption. And I can't remember off the top of my head which have only the exemption and not the rebate. I can look it up while others are talking.
Do we have any idea how many people use the rebate?
So it's almost at well, yeah. So maybe I'll look it up. But if you go under Department Finance, and there is tax exemption and a rent to rebate. If you look there, we have an updated tally of the number of households that have taken advantage of it year by year. And so for this fiscal year, it is over 200 taken advantage. And the total from census data, you can't get an exact read for reasons I won't belabor, but it's about estimate of about 800 households that are, it's actually very low income. It's not low income, it's very low income, that are outside of University Village. Households in University Village aren't eligible because the university doesn't pay any of these taxes.
Any other additional questions from council?
Okay, just ask one more question. So this would have to go on the ballot as a tax change, and then to make up the money that we wouldn't have, would the rest of the tax would be raised, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would look to staff because while it's a large number of households, potentially 200 households or even 800 households, is just on the residential side, not the commercial side. So the total reduction by those households taking advantage of this equity feature is in absolute dollar amount, not tremendous. So if you think of the 200 households and it's over $100 a household, it'd be $30,000 in total. And I don't recall what the revenue is for that particular tax measure, but it's well into the mid-high millions.
And I'm going to speak to the topic conceptually more because we haven't crunched the numbers necessarily yet. That will be something we'll put some estimates around in terms of balancing that number with some kind of the other side of the coin to this that has been mentioned a few times in different forums, understanding our ability and legal means to charge leased properties. So that is a revenue offset potentially. As well as looking at each of the taxes as we're moving forward. Some of these may have modernization needs outside of these two topic areas, just in terms of the utility of that particular tax and if it's evolving. So really we're looking to do all of that work and appreciate that the language here indicates consider, because there may be some considerations that need to be made on a case-by-case basis with each of these as we move forward, as they all seem to have their own moving parts, so to speak. But again, that work would be forthcoming to get those more solid answers.
So does the language here guess, encourage that from staff? I mean, it seems like what you're proposing is greater than this, which is good. But I guess my question is, does this need to be broadened a little bit? Or is it fine the way it is?
I think it works fine the way it is, knowing that we're looking at revenue sources through several different lenses,
Okay.
both inside and outside of the strategic plan, and I think naturally that will all coalesce together as we move closer to ballot decisions.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to correct, I stated it was not correct. The street paving and storm drain facility improvement tax does have an exemption in it currently. It doesn't have a rebate. For this fiscal year, it was about $160 for a single detached residence.
All right, thank you very much. Any other additional questions from council? Not seeing any additional questions. Do we have any public comments on the item?
Yeah, greetings, council and mayor. This is Nick Peterson. I'm a member of the Albany Climate Action Coalition. And I want to say that I'm very happy to see that our strategic plan goal number 1 is to address climate change, reducing emissions, and working on adaptation measures. However, I think there's an opportunity here to bring in the urgency of this priority, and more so than it just being our number 1 priority. There should be some urgency and some indication of that all city actions will be addressed through the lens of climate change, which was really the goal of the climate emergency declaration that was made last year. So it seems that keeping same verbiage that was pretty much as before, we should ramp that up a bit and make it really clear to city employees and staff that a very important strategy is to consider how can we reduce emissions, how can we save energy, how can we address our impact on the climate with everything we do. I'd like to say I was very happy to see, I was over at Terrace Park one morning when the new lawnmower arrived, all-electric lawnmower, and I really congratulate Public Works for bringing that about. Seeing an emissions-free piece of equipment that's actually quite large operating in the parks. And I think we can take that attitude and move it into other departments as long as there's a focus and a clearly understood desire and ability to make those kind of changes and bring the city more forward as a leader to its citizens of addressing climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I also want to thank you all for having climate action as one of the top pieces of the strategic plan. Very exciting to see that. I want to agree with the previous speaker relating to having climate action be part of the lens through which all decisions are made at the city. More coordination on that would be great. To that extent, I think there's synergy between climate action and housing, and that denser housing promotes more use of biking and walking transportation facilities rather than private car ownership, which accomplishes some of those goals. And I disagree with the previous commenter who was talking about the notifications of relating to reducing development. I don't think that's the right way to approach this. Additionally, I want to comment about Measure DD funds, and there's some concerns about finances throughout the strategic plan, and looking for creative solutions to that. Measure DD funds, to my calculation, have about $300-something thousand remaining, based $900,000 something collected over the last couple of years. And although it's a general tax, making it easier to pass. In order to maintain the trust of the voters, let's see, we're reporting transparency around Measure DD funds to make sure they're actually going to climate action and not just a slush fund for the city. So there could be an opportunity to use those funds for things like combination of a stormwater plan with street trees, with reduction of paved surfaces, increasing biodiversity, planting native plants. One pilot we have idea for this is the wise tree planters that Dan Johnson has proposed to city staff relating to how to meet multiple goals at once on a pretty, pilot-friendly approach. So I also appreciate the 3 priorities relating to electrification, EV charging, and urban forest. The comment about the biodiversity and removing paved areas is Dan Johnson's idea, and that would meet potentially part of the 3rd goal, though it's a little bit distinct from street trees. It's a little bit related, but a little bit distinct. So wanted to say thank you for all your work on this, and would love to see more climate action resources and prioritization here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to speak about this. I want to talk about start with goal 3, objective 2, street traffic survey. I'm not really clear on what that means. I'm hoping that means that there'll be conversations with people who are trying to use the sidewalks and on major streets such as Solano, because it's become more and more and more and more dangerous to try to cross the streets. I've spent a lot of time experiencing that, timing it and doing all sorts of things because I'm really concerned. I'm concerned about how angry people are, the people who are driving. The drivers are furious, it seems like a lot of the time, honking their horns, yelling at people. And we need to change the climate. And so I'm hoping that this survey will give people who are trying to use the sidewalks and cross the streets an opportunity to speak up. Goal 4, objective 3, increase accessibility and enhance communication to residents on city resources and information. I'm seeing that's not being done very well. For example, I asked about this satisfaction survey, and I think what the city manager said was that people could request it, but if you don't know about it, I don't know how you would know to request the paper copy, and I haven't seen any paper copies posted, and that's an example of not communicating with the community and in all different ways so that everyone can be informed and be connected to what's going on. I'm also concerned about the size of the font. At the community center, there's a glass case, and there's notices, quarter sheet notices that are posted that maybe have like 8-point font. And also inside on the bulletin boards, a lot of the notices that are posted are very small font. So yes, that works for people who can read that kind of font, but for a lot of people, they can't. So again, it's not increasing accessibility, it's not enhancing communication. The city overall, for the many, many years that I've been coming and complaining, this is one of the biggest issues to me, is the lack of knowledge in the city of Albany about what's going on, because there's such low effort in terms of getting past sending out emails or expecting people to go to the website. There's a lot of different kinds of collection of people in Albany who collect information in different ways. They don't all do it by getting an email. They don't all do it by going onto the website. And the amount of times that I have asked people about something that's important that's going on at a council meeting, for example, and people have no idea. So I hope that this time that actually will happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, this is Lucinda Young. I'm also with the Albany Climate Action Coalition. I want to echo what the first 2 speakers mentioned. I'm very happy to see goal number 1 as reducing greenhouse gas pollution and adapting to climate change. Thank you for listening to the citizens of Albany, who are most of us are very, very concerned about this. I want to bring your attention to the climate emergency declaration, which Nick Peterson, who spoke first, mentioned. And I think it is important that this be reflected in the new plan. I think the most important part of that declaration, I'm going to read it because it's probably been a while since council has looked at it, but the city will set policy and assign resources through the lens of climate action, coordinating across departments and functions to ensure an effective, timely transition off of fossil fuels in keeping with our cap. And going to objectives, I'm really happy to see EV charging and urban forests. Those are 2 areas that are very important under our climate action and adaptation plan, and yet there hasn't been attention placed on them. We have an EV charging desert in Albany, even though City Council in 2019 authorized the installation of 5 EV chargers, which never happened. And I would like to just comment on our city manager mentioned some meetings ago when I raised the issue of the lack of EV chargers, that Public Works would be doing a feasibility study on EV chargers. And I think this is a perfect example of how this provision in the climate emergency declaration really comes into play. The Climate Action Committee, we have a lot of expertise on our Climate Action Committee. We've got a lot of expertise on our sustainability staff. They need to be working on any feasibility study on EV chargers. Not coordinating across departments is what really led to this, what I consider a big mistake that was made by council last year when they did not have any input from the Climate Action Committee or the sustainability staff on purchase of another gas parking enforcement vehicle. That I think was a mistake, and that's in violation of our new climate emergency declaration. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, that concludes our public comment on the item. I'll bring it back to council for discussion.
I had some, hopefully, language simplification items, just 3. Unfortunately, I didn't write down which objective this regards, but the one that states identify opportunities to enhance city program for management of the urban forest, which is, I think, objective 3 of goal 1. I suggest striking city program 4. So it just reads identify opportunities to enhance management of the urban forest. I think it goes without saying that each of these objectives regards the city and city programs. So again, just simplifying language to faster read and easier to understand. I don't know if I should keep going or stop there.
No, keep going.
Keep going, okay. Then promote streets that support safety and transportation mobility options. I suggest striking mobility. It's somewhat redundant with transportation. And then finally, on consider modernization of property taxes and fees to levy on unsecured property. I suggest replacing modernization of with amending, consider amending property taxes and fees, and replacing to levy on with to apply to unsecured property. So it would read, consider amending property taxes and fees to apply to unsecured property.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's the
no
last
problem.
sentence.
Yeah, no problem. Consider amending property taxes and fees. It could be so that they apply to unsecured property. I had to apply to unsecured property. Just found fees to levy on unsecured property as awkward.
Is there anything additional that council would like to suggest or have spoken out?
Yeah, Preston, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I thought I knew where you were on the mobility one, but now I've lost it. Can you just tell me where it is?
Yeah, let me find where it is. Yeah, it's goal 3.
Goal 3. And which?
And it was just deleting mobility. So
Oh, I'm sorry, in the goal, okay.
Yeah, in the goal itself.
I was kind of wondering about that too, because it feels like it should say transportation and mobility options.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. It could be get rid of transportation and just say and mobility options. Yeah, the way it's formulated seems
Well, but
unclear and redundant.
transportation might be because somebody's being brought there, whereas mobility might be their method of moving to that location. So I kind of feel like maybe they should both stay in there,
I guess I see that as transportation options, how people get
like if somebody's
where they're
walking
going.
there or if somebody's on the.
I think leaving mobility in sort of highlights different modes of mobility as opposed, but I think of transportation, I think more of cars or buses or something. Where mobility, I think more of wheelchairs, electric, scooters. I think, Jennifer, you have a good idea with just adding and.
Maybe it would be that,
Support safety, transportation and mobility options, right?
might be support safety of transportation and mobility options.
I think I agree with that transportation and mobility are two different things, in the sense that a person walking, the way that the mobility of them is them walking or walking with a cane or something, whereas transportation to me has always been you're riding a bike, you're in a car, you're on a bus. It's more about being in a vehicle, whereas mobility can be anywhere on the street. It could be the sidewalk, or it could be in a bike lane, but.
Okay. Looks
Do you
like,
have any thought on the formulation or reformulation? Conjunctions, where to add?
I'd like the safety, transportation and mobility options.
okay, I think we have consensus there. Was there anything additional? I do want to make sure we capture any input you have, Councilmember Mickey, because I know it can be difficult to chime in remotely.
Yeah, I appreciate the edits that Councilmember Jordan brought forward. I think the biggest one for me is probably the city programs for urban forest. Because I think as we study this, there will be questions about what private owners are responsible to do as well, so.
Good point. I can't claim credit. I wasn't even thinking of that, so it has that advantage as well.
So are you suggesting making program plural? Taking out city and making it plural?
I think just saying, as recommended by Councilmember Jordan, to enhance management of the urban forest is fine.
And then I'm just curious to bring it back to staff to see if these all make sense and.
Yeah, I appreciate the clarity provided by those proposed edits. I think they all make sense.
I've got something on the mission, but we might want to finish this. Or we finish the secured property one, unsecured property.
Secure property, which one's that under?
05, objective.
Okay.
Whatever. I guess I'm not sure why we're changing it. Could you clarify what doesn't work here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see this as really modernization. I think it's basically correcting an error in the past, so I'm not really in favor of modernization. That's why I suggest substituting amending. Consider amending property taxes and fees.
However, I believe you had mentioned that some of those taxes and fees would require some modernization.
Potentially on a parallel track, but for the intensive purposes of this particular objective, amending works fine.
I mean, that's what we'd be proposing to the voters, I presume, is an amendment of an existing ordinance.
Okay.
Councilmember Jordan, I would say that the term that I would use is omission as opposed to error.
Okay, fair enough.
it was an omission of, of certain language as opposed to an error in the actual writing of the language.
I appreciate that.
That sounds like a working compromise.
It is in here other way, but I appreciate the reframing. I was just frustrated and amazed to learn about this situation when I came on council. Yeah. And then the last part was amending property taxes and fees to apply to unsecured property. I don't know if that's quite right, but it'd be amending property taxes and fees so that they apply to unsecured property. Or I guess it could be to fees to levy them on unsecured property.
Open to thoughts or suggestions or rebuttals to Councilmember Jordan's suggestion.
I'm open to the version that was consider amending property taxes and fees so that they apply to unsecured property.
Okay. Not seeing any further contention on that. Anything else additional, Councilmember Jordan, on your side?
That's what I have.
All right. Looping it back over to Vice Mayor McQuaid. I know there's a couple things on your mind.
Okay, regarding the mission statement, it's the only thing I have at this point on this. And what it says right now, Albany is committed to providing a safe, healthy, and accessible city and serves all diverse members of our community. And I would like to change it a little bit. Albany is dedicated to providing a safe, healthy, and accessible city that serves our diverse community.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is changing committed to dedicated.
Right.
Okay.
And adding of that, because it just kind of.
Yeah, so grammatically.
Word missing. And I just switched around to make it our diverse community.
I like that, our diverse community. Any thoughts or opinions about what Vice Mayor McQuaid had just suggested?
Thank you.
All right. Was there anything else on your end, Vice Mayor McQuaid?
Not on this one.
Okay.
All right, well, with that, I will move adoption of the 2025-2027 strategic plan with those 4 changes.
Second?
Thank you. City Clerk?
Councilmember Mickey,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McQuaid,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez,
Yep.
Councilmember Hanson Romero,
Yes.
and Councilmember Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And if I may, Mayor, just address some of the public
Yes,
comments that were made. Each staff report does have a sustainability section to it, which is where the first goal is often addressed. And I would also encourage people who are listening to, if you go to the city's website and you go to departments, and under sustainability, there's climate action and adaptation in Albany. And that page has various menus that can be expanded to show city actions that have been taken and the amount of funding that has been spent on those and is being spent on those. I want to look to that as a resource for what the status is currently.
Thank you, Councilmember Jordan, for the clarification. Also, before I move on from this item, I do want to thank those who serve alongside me on City Council and city staff for that marathon of a meeting last time to get where we are at with the strategic plan that we were able to provide added input and suggestions to. To me, it's very warming and moving to see that each individual objective is handled with intentionality and care, I think that's certainly something we need in this day and age, and I do appreciate all of city staff and, again, everyone who's serving here on council to bring it and give it the lift that it needs to be where it's at today. So thank you all.
Actually thought of one other item, which is I believe the previous plan had 27 objectives. If I'm counting, I think this one has 23. So I'm seeing potential confirmation there, so I'm excited about that. I appreciate that the council didn't just say, oh, great, you got those done. Now we're just going to give you, backfill back up to 27. So that's been one of my goals on council, is to make it more tractable. So thank you, council.
Again, thank you, city staff, for making things routine.
We've got one more chance, Preston, to get it down to about 3.
Don't challenge me.
That would be okay.
Moving on to item 11, new business, review of city council procedures and policy. And I'll bounce it over to city staff for some high-level reporting.
Good evening, council. Hopefully, here's another document that's familiar to the council. The city council procedures and policy is reviewed and updated on an as-needed basis and from time to time. The last update to the city council procedures and policy was in 2023. Staff recommends the council, in reviewing the document, to consider, one, if the policy and procedure remain relevant and current. 2, are the changes needed to add further clarity to any policies or procedures? And 3, are there any new policies or procedures that should be considered? And with direction from council tonight, staff will incorporate any changes, if there are any, and bring the document back to council for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, city clerk. Do we have any questions from council?
Yeah, I have some questions. In section A1, the portion regarding meeting time and location, there's a couple paragraphs that are underlined that have to do with, if I get to it, the mayor's. They start the mayor or some authority that the mayor has. I was just curious why those are underlined. Maybe there isn't a good reason they're underlined. I don't know. I sort of looked for a key to see if it.
So I think what may have happened is back when this was first added, it was underlined to show that it was an added.
In addition,
added paragraph. And then once we remove the changes, the underline just kind of stays. So we can definitely remove that underline for the newer version.
Great, thanks. And then under the special meetings under A-3, it says a minimum of 24-hour notice is required for special meetings. I think there might be 2 different uses of special meetings here, because we have a lot of, well, not a lot, but we have special meetings, and we generally provide 72-hour notice. Isn't the 24-hour notice, isn't that special meetings under the definition of Brown Act, or the city attorney could speak to that?
That's correct. Under the Brown Act, if it's a meeting that doesn't have a regularly scheduled time, such as this meeting meets on the first and third Monday, then it's a special meeting, and it only requires 24-hour notice. But I do think, and I'll look at the city clerk, that we do try to provide as much notice in advance as possible, even on special meetings.
Okay.
That's the bare minimum.
Thank you. And finally, on A-7, it holds that any items not completed are continued to the next regular meeting or by 2/3 vote to an adjourned regular meeting. Not sure what exactly that means. And yeah, I mean, adjourned regular meeting, is that just the next regular meeting, or is that like, what is that?
It's another Brown Act provision, and so if it occurs within 5 days of the meeting, then we don't have to renotice agenda items that we didn't complete.
So you have to put out notice that there's going to be a meeting, I presume?
It's more like you're continuing, like, let's say this meeting went very
Oh, I
late
see.
and we
Okay.
couldn't get to the last 3 items, and we adjourned it till Wednesday.
Okay.
Then we just pick up right where we left off, and we wouldn't have to re-agendize those items.
And so is the idea under the act that anybody who wanted to comment on those items presumably was in the room and would have heard when it was continued to?
Correct. I'm guessing the city clerk, I've never had to do this, to be honest, maybe once in my
Yeah.
career. I'm guessing we would put some sort of notice that we're continuing these 3 items to this date.
Okay.
So, but it really doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never experienced it here. Thank you.
All right. Any other additional questions from council?
I have some comments, but no questions.
Okay. Not seeing any additional questions. Any public comments? Not seeing any public comments. We will move to council for discussion. And seeing or hearing that Vice Mayor McQuaid did indicate that they have some comments, I will let Vice Mayor McQuaid start this party.
All right. Page 4, A-1 on meetings. I'd like to add a section probably right above the 2 underlined sections, which makes it easy to find. The language I'd like to add is traditionally the first meeting in January is the 3rd Tuesday of the month due to lack of substantive agenda materials and the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
Okay, thank you. Were there any additional comments or suggestions you were?
A5, which is page 6. Sorry, wait, let me get there. Attendance. Changing the language a little bit because things are changing a lot. Should a circumstance arise where a council member must participate via teleconference, all relevant state laws shall be followed. This includes, when applicable, posting the location from which a council member is participating on the posted meeting agenda. And I'm thinking now there's more than one way to teleconference, and so it kind of gets both of those points in without being very specific because the laws keep changing.
Okay.
And then my last one is on page 41, JJ1 social media. It references Twitter, and I was thinking, first I thought just change it to X, and then I thought, why not use any names as it changed? Again, social media names change. And I'm not quite sure how to phrase that, but I'm sure it's just the word social media would probably suffice. We get Mala nodding, so I guess we're okay. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, suggestions from council members?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in response to Vice Mayor McQuaid's request about listing dates when we typically meet on a Tuesday, I was quickly looking at a calendar, and would the same not apply for President's Day? The President's Day is usually the third Monday, so the same thing would happen on.
It's already in there about changing the date for regular holidays, but because it's basically to remove the first meeting, to make the first meeting in January the 3rd week. And I thought instead of saying the 3rd Monday, which is always the Martin Luther King holiday, to make it the Tuesday and then explain why.
I see, because we almost never meet that first
Right.
Monday. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for thinking that clarification, Councilmember Mickey. Councilmember Jordan?
Yeah, so it's indicated by my question, I'm uncomfortable with our procedures staying only 24-hour notice for a special meeting. I think the intention of that is, the Brown Act is really if there's like an emergency meeting rather than a special meeting.
Emergency meeting doesn't require even 24
Maybe
hours
24
notice.
hours,
I would
okay.
encourage us keeping that language in, but then to the extent we can give more, we would do that, because there are times that is pretty common where we've only had 24 hours notice.
So maybe the addition would be, with a preference for 72-hour noticing if possible. That'd be acceptable.
We'll defer to the city clerk, but yes, it's legally possible.
I'm sorry, for clarification, you are saying that we put in the document that we require 72 hours?
On advice of council, it would be, it would stay 24 hours, but it would say, there would be a clause that says with 72 hours notice if possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's our typical practice anyways, but
Right.
just that we put what's Brown Act, per the Brown Act requirement.
Right. I guess that's a question. Are these legally binding?
They're your policies to the extent they mirror state law, then the state law is binding, but to the extent you've deviated, i.e. given additional transparency or additional requirements that state law does not, there's no repercussions if, say, you didn't comply.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just like that change because it's more transparent. It's what we do, and most of our special meetings, majority, not all of them, we do give that greater notice. A3, there's a requirement that we be provided food for meetings to start before 7.
Don't take that out.
Okay. I don't know. It seems kind of
I like
burdensome.
my
but-
snacks.
Okay, fair enough.
It does say light fare, so
Okay.
not necessarily a meal.
It uses the term executive session, which that term doesn't appear on our agendas that I can recall. I think what is meant by that is closed session. So maybe that could be changed to closed session. On A6, I need to go find A6 myself because I'm not remembering what my note means here. Everybody figures out what page it's on before I get there. A6, okay. It says, oh yeah, okay. So the first sentence says, 3 members of the council constitute a quorum that shall be sufficient to transact regular business. Not just business. I don't think there's any other kind of business where less than 3 members can transact it. There are some types of business where I think it takes more than 3 members, but I can't think of anything that can be done with fewer than 3 members.
Technically, it could be if only 3 members are there and then the majority of the quorum votes to approve something on a 2-1, but I'm just nitpicking. But you could remove regular.
Yeah, yeah, because this isn't saying what the vote threshold is. It's just saying, can you even talk about it? Okay. Then I guess I had a question about the adjournment, but I think that was previously answered.
Question for the city attorney. Is a standing committee is considered regular business, or, right, so a standing committee is just 2 people?
Correct.
I'm just a little concerned about removing regular, not understanding why maybe regular was first put in, in there.
I mean, we could state city council, transact city council business. I mean, a standing committee would only have 2 members. The way this is worded is it's presuming a city council meeting.
Yes. Because I could see a weird interpretation if we remove regular, that all of a sudden the standing committee can't meet because we're not 3 people.
Yeah,
We're only 2.
I was kind of along that same track, thinking the same thing. I mean, it's not hurting us to have regular in there, so why not just leave it in there?
Well, in that case, to Councilmember Mickey's question, is the business of a standing committee regular business? I mean, it's so I think saying to transact city council business might be clearer or less
Could say
ambiguous.
3 members of the council shall constitute a quorum of the city council and shall be sufficient to transact business.
Yeah.
So then we're making it clear which meetings.
On B3, which is the contents of the agenda, I think there's a return missing just before council subcommittee reports, council member reports, so on and so forth. That should basically be a new section because that's a new item, new agenda section. You know, equivalent hierarchically to new business and unfinished business, and all those things are above that. Then under C2, statement of the mayor, statements by the mayor, I wonder if it should be mayor's statement may rather than will be read at the next meeting. I seem to recall there might have been mayor statements where they were not read at the next meeting, and I think that makes some sense because sometimes the mayor's statement can come, you know, a couple days after a council meeting in response to current events. And then finally, last item, there's a work plan amendment form as what is it? Is it an attachment? I'm not sure. Let me go look at the table of contents. It's an exhibit. And I'm kind of wondering, I don't think that's referenced. I searched on work plan and I didn't find that term anywhere else in here, so I'm thinking maybe that should just be deleted, particularly as we seem to be moving away from that anyway. That is all I have.
All right. Anything from Councilmember Hanson Romero? All good. Looping it back on this side. Any further contribution, Councilmember Mickey, Vice Mayor McQuaid?
Nope, I'm done.
All right. I will now entertain a motion.
Well, I think what will happen is they'll bring back.
Yeah,
a version
we don't
of
need a
changes.
motion for this item.
Yeah,
Yeah, correct. Well, then what I will say is thank you, council members, for your contributions and again, intentionality to trying to tighten up language and make sure things are in a good place for all future iterations of council cohort. I'm sure our next generation of leaders will always appreciate that things are cleaned up when necessary. That said, we'll close out item number 11, and we'll move on to item number 12, council subcommittee reports. And we'll start with Councilmember Mickey.
No new items to report.
All right, Vice Mayor McQuaid.
Yeah, thank you. I attended the March Chamber of Commerce mixer. Along with Councilmember Mickey, I was at Senator Aragon's community swearing-in celebration. I attended a housing authority meeting, and the report will be on your next agenda. But I will say that I was appointed to the Budget and Negotiating Committee with the mayor. I attended the mayor's conference last Friday. Again, with the mayor and the city manager, we attended the dedication of the Albany High School Library for Dr. Frank Wells. And Councilmember Hanson Romero and I were at the Little League Parade on Saturday.
Thank you. Councilmember Jordan.
Yeah, I don't know if under this, since we now have standing committees, if Councilmember Mickey and myself, one or the other, should report on the standing committee that we're on or not. Leave that to the council. Which will also apply to the Public Safety Standing Committee. I mean, the agenda is available, the video is available, so, but if you want a few words or not, I have no preference either way.
The city manager and I were discussing that they come back, I think, as specific items, so it may be best to deal with that to avoid any Brown Act issues of agendizing if you start talking about items that were part of the standing committee.
Thanks for clarifying. Well, with that, I'll go on to Alameda County Transportation Commission. The Planning, Policy, and Legislative Committee met, and nothing particular to report there. Was one of 4 commissioners. I went to Sacramento for its annual lobby day. And we met with Caltrans and California Transportation Commission, a few assembly members, a few senators. It was interesting because by the third to last meeting, I was the only commissioner left. So that was a little nerve wracking, but I got my act together and hit all the points. I will say Assemblymember Wicks was, from my perspective, the most engaging, interesting conversation. She's looking for ideas on how to essentially cut red tape so that projects, infrastructure projects, and housing can be built faster than it is now. So anybody that has any ideas in that regard, you have a very receptive assembly member in Sacramento, should you want to share those ideas. And I participated in the recruitment interview committee for the executive director for the Albany County Transportation Commission. That was a couple of weeks ago. And then just today, I participated in the interview for the firm that will perform audits for the next few years for the city.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanson Romero.
I did attend a meeting with stopwaste.org, and just wanted to put out there that we're having, again, 2025 Stop Waste Environmental Leadership Awards, which will be held on Thursday, June 12th at 4 p.m. during the Alameda County Recycling Board meeting. Stop Waste has organized this recognition program and event for over 2 decades, and it's always a pleasure to acknowledge and lift up the great work of our awardees. So we welcome and encourage nominations of Alameda County entities for their leadership and innovations in advancing environmental sustainability, waste prevention, and contributions to building healthy, climate-resilient communities in Alameda County. So nomination categories include circular economic solutions, construction innovation, and healthy community food systems. So more information, you can also visit stopwaste.org website and take a look at all of their exciting programs and opportunities that they have.
Thank you, Councilmember Hanson Romero. I can share similar to what Vice Mayor McQuaid had shared. Had attended the mayor's conference in Piedmont. It was somewhat refreshing to hear from a fellow smaller city some of the challenges and nuances of being a smaller city. We're not alone in what we deal with. But I also just want to highlight that while there, heard the many praises of several city staff here in Albany, from other community leaders and other city staff members, and that made me feel really great inside, knowing that we have, knowing that the talent that we have and that it's being recognized by others. I think we all here collectively always recognize how amazing and how grateful we are for our city staff, but to hear it from other folks is, it means a lot. And I think it says a lot too when other city staff members and other elected leaders are like calling out our city staff members by name. And I won't do that right now, but I will say, at least a handful of our city staff members their names were mentioned to me, and nothing but solid, amazing praises. I do have my next Ava Energy meeting tomorrow, so hopefully hear some more exciting things coming down the pipeline there. Additionally, I also, as previously stated, had also attended the dedication ceremony of the Albany High Library in honor of Dr. Frank Wells. It was very moving and touching to definitely hear from his family members and hear some of the stories of Dr. Frank Wells not wearing the superintendent hat and his early connection to the UC Village. Apparently, one of his sisters lived here in the village around the same, in the same similar conditions in which I believe Vice Mayor Mickey had, Councilmember Mickey had lived in the village, the old barracks, and so it was really good to. It felt really nice to connect on that level and for to hear from his family members that level of excitement of when he had shared that he got the position as superintendent for Albany, that there was some layered history there that I wasn't familiar with. But also in attending that meeting, something I do want to highlight and point out that there was a young student who spoke at that event, a young student who I'd known for a long time. I used to teach him on the weekends for a nonprofit program out in Richmond and San Pablo. And I wasn't really sure what had happened to him, but I did know at that time that young man was dealing with a lot in his life. And I won't share too much detail about what that was. And though he mentioned some of it in that event, it's not my place to share here. But I will say that it warmed my heart to end up learning that when that young man came to Albany Unified School District, that he found a mentor and he found guidance through Dr. Frank Wells. And I'm amazed because I see the 180 that young man had made and where he's at today. And I think it just really does speak to the power of the educators and other leaders in our community, that what they do have on young folks in this community. And so I do hope that dedication of Dr. Frank Wells in his honor, renaming the library, has a lasting impact for generations to come. And it certainly will after hearing that young man speak and seeing where his life is at today. And I believe that concludes what I have to share. We are still trying to round out something with the Giltrack Farm. There's plenty of moving pieces. I also do have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with the UC Vice Chancellor of Cal Housing, so trying to get some traction as well with some of our constituents in the UC Village to see what progress we can make there. And I see Councilmember Mickey has his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies, I had mentioned the swearing-in ceremony for State Senator Jesse Araguin at the Standing Committee meeting. I should remember to make that announcement here as well. There was one other item that I was just remembering, Mayor. Both of us attended a tour of the Anchor House, which is new UC Village housing that opened up this fall for transfer students. A really incredible building. Providing an opportunity for transfer students to have housing provided by UC that does not necessarily involve them having to share a dorm with freshmen, as transfer students are often juniors or higher transferring into the school. Incredible building that was donated to the university by some benefactors, and really a beautiful building and a great amenity for UC.
Thank you, Councilmember Mickey. And that jogged my memory, and I just want to acknowledge that the Anchor House, I think, speaks to the collaboration that can come about when working with the UC, and I think we definitely see the benefit of that in our consent calendar item earlier. But I also wanted to point out something that was mentioned during that Anchor House tour was that they have a state-of-the-art facility for gym, and they have provided access for UC Village residents to also use that space. And I say that because UC Village residents have been having concerns about inadequate spaces and access here in the village. And so I think it's just, kind of pushing that needle a bit and understanding that, folks from non-traditional backgrounds and academia have particular needs, and we need to meet them where they're at. Similarly, we have a lot of that in our community, people who have non-traditional journeys in life, and we need to meet them where they're at. And I think we're all doing a good job at that, but certainly there's always room for improvement. And so with that said, I will close out, check to see if we have any public comments on council subcommittee report. Not seeing any. Moving on to future agenda item. Do any members of council wish to propose any future agenda item? All right, not seeing any. Any members of the public? Not seeing any. All right, item 14, we do have several meetings coming up. Please refer to the city website. And with that, I adjourn this meeting at 8:31. Thank you.